iOS versus Android. Let us see why Apple's ecosystem is better than Samsung's ecosystem. This is your host Ruel, and today let us find out why Apple defeats Samsung. First off, Apple has an exclusive ecosystem consisting of smartphones, PCs, tablets, wearables, accessories and services. People really love iPhones. Many people have a dream to have an iPhone 13 Pro or Pro Max. So when you first buy an Apple product like an iPhone, you will think I will get a better experience if I buy AirPods with my iPhone. Then after you buy AirPods, you would think I would get a better experience if I bought a MacBook. With it, after a while, you would have bought every single Apple product. This is the amazing strategy of Apple that completely destroys Android devices because iOS is exclusive for Apple and Android is for all other companies like OnePlus, Oppo, Vivo, Xiaomi and Samsung. But if we look at Samsung, they produce smartphones, tablets, laptops, computers, wireless earphones. But Apple's landmark product iPhone has a great value retention compared to their Android counterparts. For instance, Samsung S20 at launch price was $1,000. But after 6 months, the price dropped to $700. If you sell your Galaxy S20 on eBay, you will get only $650 to $700 even if your phone was in tip-top shape with no external or internal damages. The value of a phone would still drop by 30 to 35%. If we compare to the iPhone 12 Pro, which at launch was $1,000, but after 6 months dropped by 10% or $100. And on top of that, Apple have a very polished software compared to Samsung because they put their own custom skin. Just imagine this. You made a mistake while writing a poem with a pen. Of course, you will use a whitener to clear out the mistake. But when you write over something that is not supposed to be written on, it's not gonna look good as if you wrote it normally on plain paper. This does not affect Apple's owned iOS. But for Samsung, they don't own Android. Samsung has to put their own skin over Android's template. They have unnecessary apps like Samsung Pay, Samsung Finance, Samsung Health, Samsung Internet, you name it. These excess apps depletes the phone's performance and storage. This is called bloatware, where we can't install or disable these excess apps. Apple, on the other hand, don't have a single piece of bloatware in the software. But for iPhones, they don't use Windows or Google's operating system. They have an advantage over all Android devices because they have full control over their hardware and they can make as little or large a change. Samsung needs Qualcomm's help for their Snapdragon processors, as they also need Google's help to help them out with their software. But the problem is Samsung can't tell Qualcomm how much improvement they want in their chip. iPhones have their software and hardware, but Samsung, they have the software of other companies on their hardware, so it's not the most optimized and fluid experience. But it's not like day and night Samsung is not a Kickstarter. They still have around 25 to 30% market share. They still have amazing products. They still compete with Apple, and that I even use a Samsung phone. Another thing is iPhones last longer than Samsung devices. I can actually relate to this. I'm using a Samsung device for a little over 4 years, but I experienced many software issues. Like when I clear cache of an app, like Call of Duty or YouTube, when I try to exit, it just freezes on me. Another CPU issue I'm having is that when I'm using the phone, after sometimes it's lagging so bad. When I'm opening YouTube, the keyboard looks laggy. But for iPhones, you can see that many people still use an iPhone 6. Even I have seen YouTubers shooting and editing on their iPhone 6 because iPhones have a long lifespan of about 5 to 6 years. And sometimes Apple slows down their old iPhones just so that it lasts longer, and the reason why they do this is because they make so much profit and iPhones are the portal to their services. But Samsung might overtake Apple in the near future. So we have to wait and see which device has a better performance after 4 to 5 years. But as of today, in 2022, iPhone beats Samsung in the long run. Now for cameras. iPhone have a realistic footage versus Samsung with higher saturation. But don't get me wrong, Samsung's cameras are exceptional. But for mobile filmmakers or travel vloggers, they need realistic footage so they can properly edit their clips. How they want it to be a sad cinematic short film. You don't want high saturation, you want a realistic video that you can decrease the saturation or increase the contrast and overall make the video how you want it to be. But Samsung still has an advantage here. If an average person just took an iPhone and took a photo with it, as well as took another photo with a Samsung phone, he or she would most probably go with the Samsung phone. This is because you don't need a professional editor and manually edit the photo. He or she would rather just take a simpler way by taking a photo with a Samsung phone. One more plus point for using iOS is when you're using social media apps like Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube and TikTok. All these social media apps are taking an advantage of the iOS camera software like brightening power of your iPhone, but for Android, they can't optimize the extra software improvements. If you were Instagram, you had an option to use the camera optimization about 4 iPhones every year or 100 or 150 Android phones. It's just not possible to optimize it for such a large amount of unique phones. But Samsung is not bad and Apple is not the best. Both have its plus points and minuses. Both companies are the biggest in the smartphone market right now. Thanks for watching till the end. Make sure to subscribe, like and comment if you're an Apple user or a Samsung user. And we will see you in the next time.